Welcome to the Inside Britball podcast. My name's Andy Taylor, and this week we're just joined by Stuart and Isaac because Kiwi couldn't make it this week. But we're still here to bring you a roundup of all the action that happened this weekend and look towards a slightly quiet weekend coming up because there's some GB camps up and down the country, isn't there? With certainly the men's and definitely under 19s. I'm not totally au fait whether there's an NWFL a women's camp, but presumably there is because they like to do it all together, don't they? So I'll double check those while we're chatting. But nonetheless, Stuart, you were up in Chester. You took the nice 3-hour journey up the M6 to Chester, didn't you?
It was a crazy day, to be honest. Left Worcester at 7:30, got back to Worcester at 8:30, 13-hour day, on site 9 hours. To be fair, there was 2 injuries, one in each game, and I hope both players have recovered. I know one of the U19s ended up having to go to hospital, and I hope that they fully recovered. I haven't checked back in with them yet. And then a couple of adults guys, fortunately enough, didn't need the ambulance, but they were quite banged up. But I have spoken to Coach Flynn from the Giants. I got their film and reviewed it, and he says that they're all doing all right, which is good to hear. Great news. But you managed to get there and back nonetheless in one piece, which is brilliant. So let's get straight into it then, because we've got plenty to get to. Probably quite a bit of talking points through a number of the land. So let's start, as always, with the Adult Contact Prem. And we had a number of interesting results here across the Premiership division that makes certainly the North tasty. And then we've got an idea of where we're going south a little bit more now, haven't we, Isaac?
Yeah, and it's really interesting about the South because we're looking at the London Blitz to see if they are real contender this season. And if Bristol can survive these run of games they had, this is their 3rd or 4th game in a row now after playing in Europe.
I think it might be 6.
Yeah, exactly. So, you've got after playing against some great European competition at the same time. But for the Bristol to come out and play the way they did do and get over the Blitz, who have looked strong so far this season, especially at the likes of Hertfordshire and teams in the bottom half of that division. So, no, it was good to see Bristol really take it towards London and show what they can do.
Yeah, 6 games in a row for Bristol Aztecs, if you include the CEFL. They've done all right for themselves considering what they've managed to achieve in that time. To go up against a London Blitz defence, which is still, even after that game, the best defence in the Prem South, but still is statistically. So they're no mugs this year, the London Blitz, and it's very interesting to see that the first tie of that, of us trying to figure out where the Blitz sit in this division. After that first tie, we can see that we've got a top 3 for sure, and London Blitz a 3rd in that top 3 at the moment. But should we have a little chat about the Titans, the EKP game? Did you get any eyes on it yet? Either of you? I know, Stuart, you were busy in the weekend, but it was on the Saturday, wasn't it, this game?
Yeah, I think it comes back to what we've already spoken about in terms of defence. Titans didn't obviously put up the 60-something points they put up the week before. And I think that's testament to the EKP defence. I've been doing lots of work on the stats from the League Republic website today, and a lot of their defensive players have sort of shot up sacks, tackles and interception rankings. So watching it, they were stern. They've got a front 4 who are dogged and determined. Is that a word? I just made that up. Determined is probably the correct word. Determined to sort of stop that Titans run game that has kind of ran all over the league the last 3 or 4 years. And that forced the Titans to pass a little bit. And again, that's reflected in the stats that I've seen come out. And then once you start doing that for 4 quarters, you get yourself a little bit tired. And I have a feeling the EKP team were a little bit low on numbers, looking across from their sideline from streams and photographs. So I think they, just got a little bit tired. And there was a couple of splash plays again. I know I've mentioned that the last few weeks as well. So that's what allowed that score to get from like 19-something nil at the end of the third when my phone battery died to 30-something-7 when my phone turned itself back on midway through the fourth quarter, and I was watching it going, what's going on here? And it turned out the Manchester Titans just took care of business.
I think we've probably been a little bit sort of what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit. We've probably passed off the fact that the Manchester Titans have an explosive offense, but the Manchester Titans have an explosive offense. Do you know what I mean? And they're doing it really, really well. What I saw was a defensive lines won that game. And the games that won it for Manchester Titans were when they were able to get that ball out over the top, and at least 4 of their wide receivers can run past anybody. And I think any offensive coordinator would snap the hand off of having explosive plays left, right, and centre. And I think that's what they are, as far as I can see, is that they have a dogged running game. They have a couple of really good running backs that can explode through and get some yards, and then they just tear you up on the long ball, don't they? Because their quarterback's got one hell of an arm, hasn't he? Even rolling out, he can throw that ball 30-40 yards, and that's just a delight for any offensive coordinator, isn't it? So a 36-7 win for the Titans over EKP put them in second, because they have head-to-head loss to the Coventry Phoenix, which their win is looking even more and more impressive, isn't it? With Titans scoring over 100 or just, over 100 points in 2 games. So, very interesting. And then let's have a look. We haven't mentioned the London Warriors' convincing win over Hertfordshire Cheetahs. We obviously didn't get any eyes on this, but London Warriors came out and said that they were able to get second teamers, second string some time, and Hertfordshire came out in one of their posts and said that they were really proud of how they didn't give up and they were dogged to the end, which I suppose when you're coming up against a team like London, the big thing to do is to not give up, isn't it? And keep going in that. But let's not take away from the fact what London have achieved there. Hey, don't know if any of you want to jump in there, but 50-7 win again. That's now 46 points a game.
It shows that they're strong again this season. Yeah, it shows how strong they are again this season, and them allowing second string people to get in. It shows that teams like Hertfordshire and Cambridge now really have to look at them games where they're facing off against each other if they want to survive in the Prem, and that's going to be their 2 biggest games of the seasons when they play each other in 2 weeks' time.
That's got to be it, hasn't it? That's got to be the target now. They've shown in their first 7 weeks that that they haven't been able to compete with the top 3. We won't know whether they're able to compete with Rushmore on the return leg, because I'm pretty sure, that was a close game, wasn't it? 5-point game. So they've got another Rushmore game at home, and then they've got those 2 games against Cambridgeshire coming up. And I think, after the bye week is that first one. So that's the start of their Premiership survival, isn't it? For both of those teams. Great stuff. Interesting to see. Less than a 2 touchdown game between Aztecs and Blitz. Very interesting to see what that might be second time around. Let's have a little look at Division 1 then. Stuart, I'll give you first dibs. Is there any of these results that you particularly want to talk about?
Another close one in South Wales. I said I probably should have put an over-under on it. I know Kiwi doesn't like it, but an under of 16 points or below in South Wales is kind of the norm, really. So South Wales just about squeezed that victory over Apache, which could put them in good contention for getting a decent seed in the South. Certainly top the West. If they can go unbeaten for the rest of the season, that's sort of their halfway mark now. They've got 8 games, so they're certainly unbeaten through the first half. They'll just be looking to see out the rest of the year, and then seeing how other teams from the East and the Central do. Certainly looking towards Stallions and Olympians and whether they can go unbeaten as well. funnily enough, the game above it, Stallions took care of business against Blitz again. That happened earlier on in the season as well, didn't it, when they travelled to Blitz B, I believe. So I think that just shows how dominant the Stallions are going to be in the Central. And then it's just a case of how they can fare in playoffs this season, I think. And then the Gladiators getting a decent win as well. Obviously, they kind of came up from the playoffs from Div 2 last year, and to shut out a side like the Kent Exiles, who have been, Premiership in years not too far away, to shut them out and put up 26 points is massive kudos to them.
Yeah, Wembley Stallions have scored the most points in Britball right now, with over 200 points in those 4 games. When I was looking through the West, so the SFC 1 West, I'm intrigued to look though. I don't know what you guys think of this, but not taking away from South Wales Warriors, they are 4-0. You cannot take that away from them. But I'm going to just put a word of caution in because I'm just wondering whether this is something to talk about. Out of those 4 games, 3 of them have been at home. So they've got 1 home game left. Okay. And out of those games, they have beaten the Bournemouth Bobcats at home by 8 points. They've beaten the Solent Thrashers at home by 1 point. They've beaten the Bristol Apache at home by 2 points. And I feel as if I'm missing a result there that I've completely missed. So word of caution, or is that just South Wales Warriors? Because we've seen that for 2 years now, haven't we? They play really solid defence. They don't really score all that much, albeit they have reached the dizzy heights in some games of scoring 20 odd points. But that's probably just something that I'm thinking when I'm looking through it, that we should probably wait and see what happens over the next couple of games where they have to travel a little bit more. Maybe I'm looking for something that's not there. I don't know what you guys think, but over to you, Isaac. What are you thinking with these results?
Yeah, so we'll start with the South Wales thing. I think it's massive that when you've got a long stretch of home games, you need a win at home to really do good in Division 1. We speak a lot about in books where you need to have that ability to not lose more than you need the ability to win. And it shows that South Wales Warriors this season know how to, stop people from scoring on them. But yeah, since Stuart took all my Southern ones, because I'm going to surprise everyone and go for the South this week. The Yorkshire Rams continuing their dominance in the North, showing them, flexing their muscles over the Merseyside Nighthawks, who so far have had a really good season. Now taking a bit of a, they've hit a bump in the road with back-to-back losses to Yorkshire and Scunthorpe. You then got Chester Romans, who have beat the Sheffield Giants 25-7. I think it's a second win they've had over Sheffield this season, and it looks like it could be a long season for the Sheffield Giants. And then you got Samwell as well beating Birmingham, and Samwell now are looking to just be top of that table and just stay there for as long as they can and see if they can really push on and see what they can do in the playoffs.
Yeah, I do worry for the Sheffield Giants now. They've now got 4 games against the top 2 in the back end at the back end, right? So we wondered how good the Merseyside Nighthawks were because they hadn't faced Scunthorpe and Yorkshire before they did, and that proven. But where the class is broken in that division, and now Sheffield have got to travel to Scunthorpe, host them, travel to them, and then do the same with Yorkshire. So I do worry about their season going forward. But yeah, go on.
It's like when we talk about in the Prem South that the bottom 2 sides need to really beat each other, and Chester have beaten Sheffield twice already this season, and that could be huge for the rest of the year because you're looking at Yorkshire don't look like they don't know how to lose a game. And you've got Scunthorpe who now need to win every game to have any sort of playoff hope. So it don't look like it's going to be a great end to the season for Sheffield.
Yeah, a well-balanced team by the looks of it, Yorkshire, don't they? They seem to be able to... They've got a stout defence. I'm just looking here, 8 points per game and winning games by 3 touchdowns in general, on average, shall we say. So one if we look south at the moment, Wembley probably being the class of the south at the moment, albeit they've played 4 games, and I don't want to take away from what the Olympians and South Wales Warriors have done, but going by numbers scored, it seems like it's the right choice. And then Yorkshire in the north. So which one of them are going to come out on top? And I suppose with the new playoff structure, it doesn't really matter, does it? But they'll be the ones that will be looking towards the Prem and seeing who they'll be facing in those playoffs down the line, or if everything goes the way it should. We think it's going to go anyway. So let's move on from here then and look to Division 2. I only had 3 games, and because Stuart stole all your thunder for the last one, I'll give you first dibs, Isaac.
Yeah, so I picked the Ipswich against the Ouse Valley game. 2 sides that are very mid-table in the south to east. Sides that have beaten each other so far this season, and it's going to really be big between these 2 sides now. Who can kick on and really take a fight to the Oxford Saints, who are currently sitting at 3-0. So no, that's what I would have picked out of the 2, just to see how good these 2 teams really are. They look like the 2 sides that are tough to beat and don't really concede many or score many. So it's going to be a great end to the season for these 2.
Yeah, an 18-8 win, Ipswich over Ouse Valley, and they do get to play each other again in a couple of weeks to see if that head-to-head sticks for the Cardinals. For those who can't see, Humber Warhawks Donny didn't happen. Donny wasn't able to field a team. We've put it down as postponed for now. I checked just before we came online. It hasn't been filled in on League Republic, so we don't know whether that's going to be a walkover or not yet. I know where Humber are worried that it's going to affect their averages. It's certainly the couple of chats that we've had, but I haven't seen it officially been marked down as a walkover yet, although we probably know which way it's going. And Stuart, I don't know if you want to bring up the Lincolnshire Bombers getting their first win this week with a 35-14 win over the Lee Miners.
It's always a positive, isn't it, for a winless team to get a win on the board, and it was probably going to happen in this game. I say probably because who knows, they might have tied. Sandal and Shropshire did weekend or 2 weekends ago, so it's always a possibility. But I think Lincolnshire probably just had too much for a Lee side who, by the looks of it this year, are definitely struggling, whether that be personnel, whether that be scheme, but they're putting a couple of points on the board. So they've obviously got some sort of silver lining to, as Gary Neville put it last night, I think, on Monday Night Football, didn't he? He was like, it's a silver lining to a very dark cloud. I'm not sure that Lee are as bad as who Gary Neville were referring to. But yeah, it's certainly a silver lining to their cloud that they are still putting points on the board, even though they are losing football matches. So they've got some little wins out of their fixtures. But it's good to see. I've coached against Lincolnshire in the past, and they're just in a tough division there with Leicester absolutely skyrocketing. Leicester had a friendly against Nottingham Caesars development team this weekend, and put up a bit of a showing. They kept it reasonable against a Caesars team who have been promoted to the Prem, recruited hard and got a really strong squad. They took a development team. I'll use in inverted commas because I've spoken to team management about it, shall we say. They took most of their development guys and got certainly a lot of reps in for players who have been on the fringes of that Premiership squad, but they've not been able to get them on the field of play because it's tough in the Prem North, as we've seen. So it's been good for them to have a development game. Let's bring it back down to the Division 2 level, and the rest of that division there will be looking to chase Leicester down at the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And unfortunately for Lee, it continues a winless run, and I just hope that they're able to keep it together as a program, as a team, and continue to take the positives, which Stuart's pointed out a number of them there. So that concludes Adult Contact. Let's have a little look in Kiwi's absence, the NWFL, because we had we had a blowout happen in Manchester where the Teesside Steelers, who are very clearly in the top three of this division now, aren't they? With a 66-0 win over the Manchester Titans, a similar result to what we saw last year, if memory serves me correctly, and that's solely that puts them currently in second place. And I suppose my question to you two, based on this, is that we wonder whether Teesside are going to be that thorn that could potentially pop the top two bubble. I don't know what you're thinking on thoughts are there.
Yeah, I think it can only be a good thing if Teesside are to do that. I think having just a 2-horse race every single season is not going to help the game develop. But having Teesside who can come in and really prove an issue for Birmingham and London, it's really going to, show how strong the NWFL is and how good the game can be when you got another side like Teesside who can really upset them.
Just 100 points in 2 games, Stuart. That's not too shabby, and they've now scored 108 points on the season without conceding far too much of that either. They are for real, aren't they?
They certainly are. And they certainly showed that when they were competing against Solent, who I think are going to be another team that are going to sort of push for, to make it a 4-horse race, not just the 3-horse that we're talking about. So I don't think we can, call it just 3. I think Solent are in the mix there as well. And obviously what we mentioned last week, pretty sure it's still going to be a 14 playoff. It makes that tournament, we'll call it, on the 7th of June, huge, because the Warriors will face Teesside, and that'll be a case to say, okay, Teesside, what have you got against the London Warriors? And also Solent play Titans, so you kind of think that Solent will take that one. Birmingham play Manchester at the end of this month, and it'll be a case of how many points can the Lions put up? Can the Titans score on the Lions to sort of put the pressure on? It's in Birmingham, so they'll travel down and they'll really want to put on a show at Birmingham. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that tournament. I'm not quite sure whether it's been confirmed where that is. We'll try and get that out to everybody. But it's another one of the double-header tournaments, Warriors Teesside and then Solent Manchester Titans. Really looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that'll be class, won't it? And I was just having a little look here. Obviously, Titans are still conceding quite a bit, so there's obviously some work to do there in this difficult sort of step up from 7 to 9s, and that they're clearly on a learning curve within the nines football. And Isaac, you've talked about it before, the challenge that it is to move from that 7 to 9s and go to full field and include some special teams, etc., etc. So there's still some development there, but I think that's the kindest way we can put it without highlighting the difficulties there too much. So moving on then, let's have a little look at the under-19s, because there was plenty of under-19 action this week. We'll start off with Division 1, as we always do, and then we'll head towards the Saturday games in Division 2. But Isaac, I'll give you first dibs here, because there's plenty of interesting results here, but probably more so is the scores might be the most interesting points. Just before I let you loose, though, I'll just point out to everybody who's listening in that Solent Rushmore didn't happen in the Southwest. I hear it's because of the same issues that the Solent Thrashers were seeing the week before. So we've got 4 other fixtures to talk about in Division 1.
Yeah, so I'll start with Scotland. Edinburgh Napier against East Kilbride Pirates. Edinburgh Napier taking the win 53-24. It was a very different game to not a very different game, but slightly different to what we saw before. We saw last time that both sides were just able to just keep up with each other. And I think it basically was separated by a handful of points, not by many at all. This time, Edinburgh Napier showed their strength on defence as well, and showed that they can stop EKP when needed, and did stop them effectively, only limited to 24 points. So that's only going to help their season go forward. Chester Romans, they're doing what their adult side are doing and winning against Sheffield, 26-7. So that's only going to be good for them, and see if they can really push on now as they sit 1-1 for the season.
Yeah, amazing, Stuart. Anything else that stand out to you?
I kind of mentioned the Blitz Cardinals game in the South at the back end of last week, and you said that you kind of feared for the Cardinals and how the London Blitz team were resurgent this year, and that kind of came to the fore, didn't it, with a 60-14 victory for the Blitz. Putting up 60 points in any game is huge. And under 19 level, I hope the Cardinals can take some positives. I'm on a very positive train tonight, so yeah, I just hope that 14 is 2 scores. I hope they can at least take that away, and I hope they got some quality reps in and around their offense there to take away. Obviously, being beaten by such a deficit is never positive, but you need to sort of look and think, okay, let's move on to the next one, lick our wounds, to learn from it, and go again next week.
Yeah, 55 points a game. Is that 55 points a game for London Blitz? There could be a force to be reckoned with if their offense clicks like that all year round. Chester Romans got their first win of the season as well, didn't they, against the Sheffield Giants, 26-7. So I think that's an important point to point out as well. And it's really interesting to see how it's all shaping up. Edinburgh and AP9 probably, I know how many games have they got left? They've got 3 games left, and 2 of them against the Wildcats, who they've already played already. So it's looking quite handy for them right now. They've set themselves up nicely 3-0, haven't they? And can't see them going anywhere else with an offense that scores just shy of 50 points a game. Good on them. So let's move on to Division 2. Because we had some tournaments in and around the country. Look north first, where I saw your old stomping ground, Isaac, come out with 2 very good wins. But there's plenty of donuts to be shared out in this tournament as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, exactly. The Yorkshire Academy Assassins winning 19-0 over the North East Giants, and then 35-0 against Scunthorpe Alphas. On the 19s and 16s this year, they're really excelling, and they're showing how strong they can be and how strong in the past they have been. They've had undefeated seasons before, gone to the finals, and it looks like they could be doing that again this season. And then you've also got the Scunthorpe Alphas 34, North East 0. The North East, I think it's a bit of a worry for them, because I think over the last few years, especially at 7-on-7s and U19s, they've been really strong, and they've been the side that most people want to beat because of how good they are. And this season, it just hasn't clicked for them. So it'd be interesting to see how they can really rebuild. I think they need a decent result in the next couple of weeks just to see if they can continue what they used to do. But no, it's looking good so far for Yorkshire and Scunthorpe.
Yeah, I think clicked clearly for Yorkshire this weekend, didn't it? Because they obviously came away 1-0-1 from the first tournament, didn't they, against the same opposition, and they took it to them this week. So they're sitting pretty at the top now, with a bit of daylight, between them and Scunthorpe, and I suppose all sides have a couple more cracks at the whip, don't they? I'm just looking ahead here. So Yorkshire, according to our spreadsheet, don't play Scunthorpe again, but I'm having to check that to make sure that that's correct. So yeah, interesting. Thank you point. So let's have a little look at the south to see what happened down there. So unfortunately, Bristol weren't able to travel, so they have handed some walkovers to Poole and Oxford. But we wanted to zero in on the southeast a little bit, Stuart, because we, after our comments last podcast, we had some back and forwards, some nice information provided to us, but also they came out on top twice, didn't they, and went 2-0 in this tournament hosted by the Southeast Legion.
Yeah, so it was me that came out and said, I know very little about the Southeast Legion and who they were, and everybody else was like, yeah, we don't. And I made a comment along the lines of them being fairly quiet on social media, and I was quickly put right by a couple of people. One in particular who has given us a plethora of information, and we really appreciate. Yeah. We really appreciate people reaching out and educating us on places that we don't know too well, because we want to include everyone. We want to give everybody an equal share of it. And somebody reached out to give us the back history of why they are allowed a region name. I know it's banned by BAFA now, so you couldn't start your team up now as the Southeast Legion because you can't have an area. So way back when, they were an amalgamation of a few teams, one of which was the Kent Phoenix, which is why a couple of times now you may well see a Phoenix on a few of the helmets, because the players had decals from each individual team on their helmet. Which I thought was a really nice touch. If you're going to play as an amalgamation as a few teams, hark back to your history of where you originally came from. So I suppose, putting it into a different facet, the Caledonia Chaos, if they were going to hark back, they could have the two individual logos on their helmets, perhaps. It's a nice touch. Essex Tridents is another one. The teams that formed, if they wanted to hark back, they could put the logos. I thought it was a really nice touch and a really nice history that we got told about. And then it was really nice to see them come out in their home tournament and put up two winning scores. They've also sent us match reports. It's on the Kent Phoenix website. You can go and have a read yourself if you really want to. And they really turned up and showed out in that first game against Oxford Saints, didn't they? Who themselves are no mean feat. They're a really, really good team, but the entire Division 2 South has been a little bit messy, what with the abandoned first tournament and then Bristol not being able to field a squad in this tournament. It says in the article on the Kent Phoenix website that 15 of their 25 players, I've got to get this the right way around, was it 15 of the 25 were unavailable, or they only had 15? It's last week that 15 of their 25 were unavailable, so they had 10 players available really for the tournament, which isn't legal. So yeah, they didn't even travel, unfortunately, which is why they had the walkovers against Poole and Oxford. But it was great to see Southeast Legion come out on top against Poole, a team who historically have been very good down in the south. So I think it shows, that this division, with the teams that are going to end up playing against each other, it's going to turn out to be a really competitive and interesting division for me.
Poole are just going to be so frustrated, though, aren't they, with this whole start to the season? They're going to be so frustrated with the fact that they didn't get their two games against Berkshire and South Wales Warriors last round. And they did get a game this time around against Bristol, and then they faced the hosts in their own back garden and missed out by a touchdown. So they'll be very frustrated with the start. They'll need to put that behind them and take it forward into their next set of games, which is now out of June. And I'm sure they will. They've got very experienced coaches down there. They've got a really good program going, and there's no doubt about it that they will bounce back from all of that. Because at the moment they're finished. They're sitting second, if our spreadsheet's correct. There is a ball that to fix, isn't there? But they're doing all right for themselves, albeit it hasn't been through reps on the field. So hopefully they'll be able to get that in the bag in a little while. Okay, I think that's everything, isn't it? That's all the results from this week. Plenty to take in. Still wrangle Aaron and Kiwi together to talk about flag. I'll get that done sooner rather than later, I promise, which is coming up this weekend as well, I believe. And so let's have a little look at a shortened version of contact football, shall we, this weekend, with a number of camps happening down the country. Usually that means that we don't get out of contact, but in recent years they don't do Prem, and they allow Division 1 and 2 to still play. And so Stuart's kindly wrangled them all together for us. So I'll give Stuart North, because I'm going to give Isaac South. Stuart, any games that tickle your fancy in the North this weekend?
In the North, I'm going to try. No, you know what? I am going to steal Isaac's thunder. Having seen the Giants play last weekend, it'll be interesting to see what they can muster against Scunthorpe. They're playing on home field, which always plays into your advantage. And a trip from Scunthorpe to Sheffield is they might want to play on the fun bus, but it might not be as fun if they end up coming away having lost to the Giants. But, there were plenty of good plays that Sheffield put together. Again, there was a couple of calls that they were moaning at me for, which is completely fine. I get that on the sideline. It happens. It's what we put the uniform on for. And quite frankly, we're never perfect anyway, despite what any referee will tell you. And I can see Sheffield putting points up. Can I see them putting up enough to beat Scunthorpe? Probably not, because Scunthorpe will really want to be pushing the top of that division there. So I'll look at that game. I probably won't look too much towards the Midlands this weekend. I'll probably look towards that game in the NFC 1 North.
It's a big weekend for the Birmingham Bulls, isn't it? I'm just trying to ingest what's happening there in the Midlands a little bit, and it's a big weekend considering the fixture that's also happening in Staffordshire there as well. Birmingham Bulls are 0-4. They've now got to travel to Northants, who are coming off quite a disappointing result 2 weeks ago. Is that against Staffs? Staffs potentially resurgent. So if they go to host Shropshire and do the business there, and the Bulls have already lost to Shropshire, so there'll be and Staffs, so that there will be head-to-head points there. Feels like get the Bulls if they want to stay in Division 1, doesn't it? This weekend, that's the thing that stands out to me. Out of this slate that also sees an associate game happening up in Scotland between Glasgow and Rossendale. But Isaac, before we move to the south, anything to add there from what's already been covered?
It's something that we've been saying quite a lot, that if you're in the bottom of a division, you need to be winning them teams. You need to be beating the teams around you. Birmingham need to try and kickstart that this week. Northampton are not too far away. Sitting 2-1 after 3 games. So a win may not be likely, but it'll definitely help them throughout the season. And they've still got to play Shropshire and Staffordshire again. So really, if you're Birmingham, you're looking at them 2 results and thinking, right, if we want to stay a Division 1 club, we simply must win that. It's as simple as that, isn't it, really? I know the play-ins this season could help them as well, but it looks like it might be a big ask for the Birmingham Bulls.
Not when you've potentially got the Panthers in that playoff scenario, who are running riot down in Division 2, and Stuart's already covered what how they got on against the Caesars. So yeah, I feel it just feels like it's a bit of a big weekend for the Birmingham Bulls. All at a point they've still got to host Shropshire, they've still got to travel to Staffs. But anyway, it just, I don't know. Good check Sunday is what I'm thinking for the Birmingham Bulls. Let's head south. Isaac, your favourite place south of the country, but some tasty matchups nonetheless in the south this week.
Some big matchups, and I'm looking at Bristol against Bournemouth game. Bristol maybe don't need to win as much, but if they can win this weekend, it really helps their survival and their playoff chances. Bournemouth, sitting 1-1, haven't scored many, haven't conceded many in them 2 games. I think they've conceded 8 points over the last 2 games. So it's going to be a really, really big game for both of them. You also look at that Portsmouth Wembley game. That is huge. It's the top 2 in the Central. Yes, Portsmouth have only played 2 games, won 1 and lost 1. But right now they're number 2. They need to welcome Wembley in, but not welcome too much, and see what they really can do, and see if the Wembley Stallions are as strong as what they've been bigged up to be these last few weeks.
Yeah, if there's anything more than maybe like what touchdown win for Stallions, if that happens, we could almost put a division crown on their head, couldn't we? Be tough to. This is a team that scored. We've already said that they've scored over 200. They've only conceded a team in those 4, and so they're sticking to the defense that they need, but they're supplementing that with a potent offense. And yeah, that's a big game in that Central, isn't it? And should it go those away at the Stallions, you're probably going to put a crown on their head, albeit you might take it back for a week or 2 before you crown them appropriately. But Stuart, anything else to add that we may cover because there is plenty going on this weekend, isn't there, in the south?
There's so many games happening across Division 1, let alone the south. That's why it's kind of split into two different graphics. I tried my best to get it on one, but it was just way too messy. So for me, I think that top fixture in the East Kent Mavericks versus Kent Exiles, it'd be the first time that these two will have faced each other, I believe, in this guise. Certainly for a long time anyway, with East Kent coming up and Kent coming down. And it's quite pivotal in terms
relatively new, aren't they?
Yeah, relatively. I think we're kind of going to go back to the point where I was saying that Edge Hill were new to books. I feel like East Kent perhaps have a little bit more similar history to Edge Hill do in books. I feel like they are a number of years old. They're not just newbies as such, but it's quite pivotal in terms of the table. East Kent 2 and 1, Kent 1 and 2. If East Kent want to keep on the heels of the Olympians, they'll need to win that game. And similarly, if Kent want to keep up with the top and pull themselves away from the bottom, they'll need this victory away at East Kent Mavericks. So I think my eyes are going to be drawn towards that top fixture in the East there.
Yeah, don't listen to me. They're not new. What am I on about? I'm probably getting them confused with something else. I remember doing the previews last year, which I haven't been doing this year, but I remember doing the previews, and it always surprised me how young some of the programs were. The ones that we were rating really highly, and how new they were, and probably just getting them mixed up with somebody else. But everybody loves a derby, don't they? And a Kent. Well, which were new last year, maybe. Anyway, moving on quickly before I look like a complete muppet. Let's have a little look at Division. Let's go to Division 2 quite quickly. And Isaac, I'm sure you want to touch upon that one that will affect the team that you're playing for this year.
Yeah, big time. It's that Darlington against Humble Warhawks game. Now, the Humble Warhawks are they're just great on both sides of the ball out of the year. They've scored 155 points, only conceded 29, and they're coming against the side in the Darlington team who desperately need a win. They've got one win so far this season, and that came all the way back in their first game against the Gateshead Senators. Since then, have had 3 losses back to back against the Gateshead Senators, the Wakefield District Raiders, and also the Humber Warhawks. So, the Humber are going to have to travel up to the northeast and see if they can do it again. Last time out, it was a 58-7 victory for the Humber Warhawks, and I could see something very similar happening again here.
Yeah, concerning for them for sure. With what's going on up there, hopefully they can start using that experience to pull it back. And Stuart, over to you then, because there's a full slate in the West, isn't there? And we see the Norwich Devils for the first time in a while, it feels like.
Yeah, I think they'll be looking to sort of continue their rebuilding year. We had a couple of messages from them a few weeks ago now, to be fair, about how they're sort of looking to rebuild themselves this year, and they'll be looking to put some points on the board, having discussed such. They put 14 on Ouse Valley and they put 6 on Ipswich, so they'll be looking to continue that growing trend against an Oxford Saints team who are pretty rampant at the top of that division. So will this be their week? Maybe not, but they'll certainly be looking to compete, and as I've mentioned previously, put up some more positive aspects to their performance. But for me, I think it's more towards that slate in the West, and certainly that Storm versus Vanguard game. It finished 14-13 to Storm, first time round in week 3. So the Vanguard will be looking to overturn that 1 point head-to-head deficit to get themselves back on top of that SFC2 West. Easy for me to say, right?
Yeah, 100%. Quite a big few weeks coming up for this division in the West. Certainly, if they've got aspirations of playoff football and play-ins for Division 1, Plymouth have got that head-to-head. They then got Hereford the week after. Hereford need to bounce back from that Swindon Storm game and then take on who could potentially be lying in second and their rivals for the playoffs the week after. So a big couple of weeks for any of these playoff contenders in the SFC2 West that Stuart talked about as well. Okay. Adult contact done. No NWFL, so let's go straight into the under-16s that's happening this weekend. We've got 5 of them across the weekend, and we start up with in Scotland, Bonnie, Scotland. Isaac, over to you.
Yes, so take away from this one, we got the EKP against Edinburgh Napier again. 2 sides who know everything about each other by this point and should be a really entertaining clash. You've got Highland Warriors, who are always, really, really good at the under-16s level, could show it again this week. And then you've got the Paisley Bears, who you feel slightly sorry for because you don't see them really getting a win against Highland or EKP. 2 sides who have got pedigree in the under-16s level, who have been to finals and know how to win. So this one is going to be a really interesting match, especially between EKP, Edinburgh Napier, and that Edinburgh Napier Highland game. They're the 2 main standout games for this tournament.
Yeah, but big game though for both Highland and Paisley if they want to be getting this first win of the season, isn't it? Because I think they get another crack at it in a few weeks' time. Let me just double check. No, they don't get another crack at each other after this one. So no, I'm lying. Week 14, they get each other again. So yeah, no, really important for them to come away with a 1 in that, at least a 1 in that win column for this season. And yeah, take your points around the other games. That's always really impressive to see what can go on in some of these under 16 programs for sure. Let's swiftly move on to the Northwest. An area that I know very well. Obviously. Chester doing it right still, growing their program down from, obviously they've had adults for a while and they started flag and now they've got under 16s and they've recruited well. They have benefited from the Merseyside Nighthawks Academy. I think I can use the word imploding. So a number of their players went to Chester. Some of them went up a little bit further north to Lancashire. And so they pit up against each other this week, and I always look forward to see how Chester and Lancashire butt heads because it feels like they've been doing it for decades, and we'll see if Sheffield can get off the mat after their last tournament because I think they had some cracking points scored. They just need to try and get over the hump against some of these bigger programs or more established programs to see if they can compete for playoff football or at least postseason football anyway. I'll be intrigued in those 2 matches that are at the top of this graphic for sure. Any insight from you, Isaac, in these programs or Stuart, of course? You would have seen under 19s at the weekend, Stuart, right? Not under 16s.
Yeah, the 16s were training before the 19s went on the pitch. And I know there's a lot of excitement around the Cheshire County Sports Ground about them hosting this weekend. I think, they tend to make their game days fairly evolved and involved for families. They're excited to have referees there. I'm pretty sure that they've got a few guys down to officiate the tournament. So, it's a really great setting. The clubhouse is fantastic. So yeah, I think it'll be a really good event. And I just hope that their 16s team can put on a bit of a show against the Lancashire Buccaneers and the Sheffield Giants later on in the day.
Yeah, but some high-powered offense coming to Chester, though, isn't there, in a couple of these teams? Lancashire have scored 100. Sheffield have scored nearly 100. So plenty for them to try and keep out. Let's swiftly move on then to the Northeast. Isaac, you know these teams.
Yeah, and it looks like the Yorkshire Academy Assassins again could go this tournament undefeated. They're playing a Lancashire team who last time out they beat a Darlington side that we haven't really seen much of. I don't think they played the first tournament, and the second tournament they didn't really show much either. So the Yorkshire Academy Assassins could just continue their great run as a programme this year, with the Assassins and the Rams all in one umbrella as an academy. So again, it's just going to show how strong this academy. It hasn't done much in the last few years, but this season it could really show, how good they are.
Bombers have kept it close against the Assassins, though, haven't they? Looking at those previous scores, you've got 13 points in the first game, 6 points in the second game. Maybe they can keep that rolling. Now they're hosting, hey, but looking for positives like Stuart does. Awesome. Let's have a little look a bit further south central, which involves Berkshire, Solent, Oxford, and Rushmore. Rushmore probably looking to do this tournament. But Stuart, any insight you can give us into the South Central tournament that's happening in Berkshire?
Not so much into it, but two teams who will want to be coming out on top during it will be Solent and Oxford. They're both tied on 2-2 in the division there. Obviously, Berkshire will be wanting to get wins on the board, but having come away with 2 points in the first tournament and then 12 points in the second tournament, they'll be looking to continue that growth as well. So can Berkshire get a win on the board? Who are we looking at potentially? Oxford. Can they turn over that 20-6 deficit they had from the tournament in week 5? And then can they reduce the deficit against Solent? It's 44-6 in tournament 2. They'll certainly be looking to put up a bit more of a competitive fixture in that one. So, you've mentioned Rushmore. They'll just do what Rushmore programs at unders level tend to do. And I can probably see them coming away with the 2 wins. But for me, it'll be the other 3 teams, how they battle it out and how they can improve on their own records throughout the day.
Yeah, it's almost like it almost looks like it's a script, isn't it? You can almost see the way it's going to happen. But I think it'll be hopefully we can see someone snatch a win away from the Rushmore Knights, or even see the Berkshire Renegades snatch a win and make the division a little bit more interesting. Otherwise, it's just going to be down to that Oxford Solent battle, which we're not seeing this time around, and we'll have to wait till next tournament, won't we? But let's move swiftly on from that and have a little look to see what's happening in the final tournament, which is hosted by the London Blitz, who, unlike their under-19s counterpart, have not been firing on all cylinders so far, which is different to years gone past. But we don't see the division leaders this time round in the Kent Exiles. So who wants a bite at this cherry to give some insight into what we're seeing within this division?
Yeah, with the Kent Exiles not playing this week, it's a great chance for the other sides to show their mettle, basically. You've got some great sides in there, like the Harvard Cheaters, who, especially when I was playing in 16s, they were always up there as one of the better sides that you'll play against. Their offense was always powerful. You got the Blitz, who I think on all phases of American football have always been great. Maybe not so much this season in U16s, but there's no better time to turn that around than on your home field. So I think this is going to be really interesting because you've got a lot of sides who could start to really pose a threat to the Kent Exiles and show what they're made of.
Yeah, the Cheaters can't go above the Kent Exiles, but they can absolutely squeeze that gap, can't they? And if they do, obviously they've got to face two of the bottom. No, not Ipswich, but certainly Wembley that are at the foot of the table there. That could be something that they could chalk up on. And then they've got this battle against Ipswich, who are just behind them. So that we could certainly see that separation from the top 2 if Hertfordshire Cheaters are able to do that. And we've got 2 teams that are coming into this tournament, Wembley and London, who are looking to get that 1 win in the win column. And thankfully for them, they get to face each other, and hopefully someone will come away with that first win of the season. Hey. For this under 16s, but very interesting. Still very early doors in under 16 land, isn't it? Still a number of tournaments left for the season, but we'll have a little look after these tournaments to see how their post season lines up and see what we can get from it and bring to you next week when we review the results. But Stuart, before we get out of here, anything that we need to talk about? Because I don't want to miss anybody out.
No, that Blitz U16 tournament's a little bit messy. We're not quite sure of the running order. The League Republic website is not 100% accurate with that tournament. I noticed it Monday or Tuesday when I was putting the graphics together. So I've gone off the spreadsheet that we were sent sort of pre-season, and sort of spoken to competitions management and just made sure that we've got everything spot on. So we know those games are happening. We just obviously don't know the running order of the day, so that might change slightly. And then a couple of other things that we've had sort of confirmed by competition management is the Coventry Phoenix U19s team. They've had some fixtures redistributed, but they have also had a couple of walkover losses given to the Northants Knights and the Sandwell Steelers. Those two fixtures couldn't be redistributed into the season. So those two teams will take a 1-0 walkover win each, and then the rest of the teams will play a 6-game season, which is why on our spreadsheet that had been inputted. So it's not on League Republic yet, I don't believe. So a couple of teams reached out to us on DMs after I put the tables up, and I was like, you know what, thank you for the information. We'll approach competition management, make sure it's all done official as we normally do. We appreciate the competition management responding to us and just outlining it so we can be as accurate as we possibly can be, just to make sure that we are maybe not 100% official, but we are certainly valid in what we do report, to make sure that you guys can be kept as up to date as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. Thanks for updating on that. But nonetheless, a relatively straightforward weekend coming up. So once again, thank you to all those that reached out and gave us the scores as they came in. Made my life much easier trying to gather all those scores together and to provide the community with that detail. I wanted to just take a moment to point out to everybody who may listen and watch and not be aware. We do have a Facebook group, a community group, which is seemingly on fire at the moment, with plenty of reminiscence to the 80s and the early 90s, thanks to a Dave Tidswell comment, which was pointing out all the old teams that used to be there in the early 80s, and that's just started an absolute marathon of historical sort of information going into that group. So if you have any interest in what went before you, then head on over to our Facebook group, which is Inside Britball. If you search that, you'll see the group. But it's the old UK American football scene group that we were kindly handed over by Jason and crew to look after, and it's definitely on fire at the moment. So I just wanted to point that out, and head on over if you're on Facebook to check all that out, because some of the photos are incredible, aren't they? And some of the information of that time, which, if I ever get the likes of Dave and around the Nighthawks, there was Graham White, who's now over in New Zealand and setting up American football over in New Zealand, and get them around a pint and listen to what went on in the 80s. It sounded like a lot of fun. But yeah, just wanted to take that time to point people in that direction, because I'm having a lot of fun watching and reading it. Some of the Facebook and sort of content management notifications that we've had during that time has been interesting as well, Stuart. So no nudes, please. Anyway, we'll move on swiftly from that. Once again, Stuart and Isaac, thank you very much for joining us and giving your insight to that, to the last week and the week ahead. We'll obviously be back again next week to talk about what went on this weekend, and look forward to welcoming the Premiership teams and the Under-19s Division 1 back for the week after, for sure, and probably some NWFL as well. So we'll be back again next week. Thank you very much for listening and watching, and we'll catch you again next week. Take care. Bye-bye.